everyone, this is Mohinder from Endeavor PTE Study Center, and in today's tutorial I'm going to discuss the reorder paragraph. Now, reorder paragraph is one of the most challenging section in item types in the reading module of PTE, and after repeated attempts many people struggle. This is one of the tasks where only one thing will not help you, and you have to look into in depth, and you would have to do a lots and lots of practice so that you expose yourself to different types of writings and you are able to connect different types of sentences. Now, reorder paragraph, before we start looking into the reorder paragraph, I want to discuss this thing here, which is on the right hand side of this page you are seeing on the screen on the bottom. Now I have made a one bigger block. Consider this as a square, which is consider this as a your piece of paper or the paper, and the whatever you see in the little bit of blue shade is a triangle which is left upside down. Consider this triangle as your writing. So the basics of academic writing, they include that if you are starting from the top, your top portion should be general, broad or general information you should give in first few sentences, which is where you want to introduce a problem or you want to introduce something. Compare it with your essay writing. So in the first paragraph, you introduce the topic, where you talk general things about topic and then place your thesis statement, and that completes your first paragraph. So general things will come on the top. Yep. As we move down towards the page, you use all those connectors and conjunctions in this part, and then again the same sort of, but the most important part is this information which is found in the end. That's the most specific information. It could be either conclusion or some sort of suggestion or all those things. So keep this thing in mind, which is just the basic of academic writing, and it will help you to some extent to understand the reorder paragraphs as well. Right now, let's get back to reorder paragraph basics. Now, broadly, there are two types of prompts you will see in the reorder paragraph. First types are problem and solution based. So they'll talk about a problem, then they will explain about the solutions, and then they come to the conclusion in the suggestions. It may you may record you may have this type of text, or they may just give you something, five statements from a task such as descriptive type, where they are just describing something. So that's more or less irrelevant, but it helps to understand to some extent, because if they start with a problem, you might find the first statement which opens up with a question, because this is one of the way of writing for many way of writing for many authors. They start with a problem, especially in the science. So you start with a problem, and after that you want to give a solution to that particular problem discussed in the following sentences or in the following paragraph. So that's one of the way. um, Now, the first thing you want to do when you're trying to solve a reorder paragraph is you're trying to get the first statement, which is a standalone statement, because if you can get the first statement out, which is a standalone statement, that helps you to identify the main idea. That will introduce the main idea, that will help you to identify the main idea. Once you know the main idea, it would be much easier for you to connect different sentences together with the help of connectors, and with the help of all those connections between different sentences. Now, so what would happen, half of your time would be spent mostly by reading each statement and trying to figure out which one is the number one. So if you spend a little bit of time on finding the number one, in that time you would also have a knowledge or the idea about what they are talking in different other statements as well, or other paragraphs as well, right? So when we are trying to isolate the statement which is standalone and which is the free, we have certain basic grammatical clues which we can use to sort of in the process of elimination, so that we can isolate the first statement from where the reorder paragraph will start. Now, the main idea will be, okay, please bear in mind that the main idea will be a standalone, means it should not make reference to any other information which we do not know yet. For example, if they are making reference to something which you are not aware of yet, that means that statement is not at number 1. Yep, because it is already making reference to something which has been already discussed, right? So you standalone statement should be the one where there is no connection to any other statement. It is just a free standalone statement. Now I have this tutorial. I'll add just one more point while I'll keep you guys on a little bit of wait. So I'm going to add this point here: presence of be verbs. Be verbs, right? So let's look at the grammatical clues. What are the grammatical clues? Grammatical clues, okay. So the first statement should not have article the, uh, um, because the things which are specific, because there are two types of articles. We have definitive articles and we have indefinitive articles. So definitive article is the article makes things specific. It makes no, common nouns specific nouns, right? um, but articles a and n, they are open articles. So the statement that's containing the article or that's beginning with the may not be your first one, but this does not apply in all the times, because most times you will have sometimes you may have four statements, they begin with the, so this is not going to work. So but whenever you see article the and whenever you see a statement that is starting with a, just you should give more preference to the statement which is starting with a, but always look for something like um, the result. So if it's a the it is talking about the result, which should generally come in the end of the paragraph, end of ending statement or the last statement, and it is also the article the, so most likely that may come here. But please bear in mind, just one thing is not going to work in the reorder paragraphs, because these paragraphs, these statements have been pulled out from already written articles, and that their order is always fixed. But with the help of the connections and connectors, we can make them and put them in the order. But one thing is not going to work all the time. So keep bear in mind that whenever you see article the, it may not, that particular statement may not go at number 1. Just keep that thing in mind, but it doesn't apply all the times. You have to look for other clues as well, right? The second most important part is the absence of pronouns such as he, she, it, this, that, those, these, etc. Why I'm saying that? Because we can only use pronouns when the main noun has been introduced, when the proper noun has been introduced. So if you have a noun that has been introduced already, then we use pronouns. So if any statement that start with he, she, it, or this, that, those, that statement is cannot be number 1, because then you would have a missing noun. So if you do not already know the noun, you do not know who they are referring by saying he, she, or it. Now, when say if we look at that, if the that is being used as a relative pronoun, then this rule will not apply. For example, um, it is considered that, or it is a well-known fact that ABC, if something is started, that statement may be a standalone, even though there is an article the, but this article that, but the, sorry, even though there is a pronoun that, but that there is nothing, there is no missing information in that particular sentence. So but generally most of the times something that contains he, she, it, this, that, those, these, the is not your first statement at all. Now, absence of conjunctions such as but, so, while, although, even though, though, these are two types of conjunctions. Coordinating conjunctions, which is fanboys, for, and, nor, or, yet, so, far. Then you have another subordinating conjunctions such as if, because, although, though, even though, while. Yep. Then you have another group of conjunctive adverbs such as similarly, however, clearly. If anything starts with that, that is not your number 1 statement, because we use those words to connect ideas together or make references to something else. So if we are already making reference to something else, that means it is not your first statement, because your first statement need to be standalone. So always keep that thing in mind. Now another thing is few other things. What are the things that may you may look for and that may be there in the first statement? So presence of article a and the, a and an. used to represent a common noun, and most of the common things or broad or general things, they exist on the top as per this rule. So if you see article a and n, that may have the potential to go at number 1 if any statement starts with a or n, right? Presence of be verb, so that's very very important to understand. So be presence, what is be verb means? A sentence like Mohinder is hardworking. So this statement is a standalone statement. It does not have any information which you do not. So the statements that has just the be verb, they are very most likely they are the free and standalone statements. For example, there are four reasons to there are there for example, there are four main reasons for global warming. Yeah, there are four reasons responsible for global warming. This statement is a standalone because there are, just are means it just is be verb. Just keep in mind just the helping verb, and then if you adjective or object, that's how the sentence is, just the be verb. Or I have four books, that's a standalone statement. It does not have any word which you do not know, any information which you do not know yet. So the sentences with the be verb are the ones which are going at number 1 most times. Now, presence of many capital letters, that's another clue about the reorder paragraph. If you see a statement where you see many many capital letters, that statement could be at number 1, because when you introduce something, you use things with the, you use the full names and you use the capital letters to describe the proper nouns. So that may contain the first idea. Now, presence of adverbial phrases, that's another good clue. So for example, in 1990 or in recent years, these are the sentence openers, adverbial phrases, and these are the sentences beginning with these type of phrases are your can be your number 1 sentence. So always keep that thing in mind. Now, introduction of person with full name, that's another clue. So sometimes they introduce a person with the full name. For example, Dr. Brown Smith, right? They may introduce the full name, and the next statement they can just say Dr. Smith. They will shorten down the name. So always remember, we can use the abbreviations when, or the short forms of the names when the full name has already been introduced. The similar way, we introduce the main noun and then we can replace it with the pronoun. So that's the basics of the grammar or basics of the English writing. So the one which is wearing a person's full name could be the number 1. Yep. So another clue is the chronology. Chronology is just a sequence of events. Some, if they are talking about some sequence of events, they are happening one after another. Then the always use that rule of first come first serve. So whatever they have discussed first could go first. Having said all those things, always keep in mind that only one thing is not going to work for your paragraph, and all these things they play role. But whenever you are trying to solve the reorder paragraph, you keep in mind that we keep all those basics in mind. Now let's do some practice and do these 10 sets of reorder paragraphs, and let's try to apply some of those things here. I'll exactly show you way how to crack this reorder paragraph in very short period of time, and this is the amount of time you would have in the exam. Initially you may take a little bit longer time, but eventually you have to reduce your time to solve this question up to approximately 2 minutes. That's how much time you would get in the real exam. Now let's have a look at this part. Now this is my first reorder paragraph. This is the one we are going to save today. So how to approach the question, that's important. So if I look at the first statement, that starts with clearly, so that means it is being using an adverb or a conjunctive adverb which is already making reference to something. That means they have already spoken something and they are saying clearly blah blah blah. So that is not my first statement, but still I'll have a look at this statement. Clearly a number of factors have contributed to its remarkable appearance. That's fine. Okay, but not my first one. Look at this statement number B. So B statement, the result is a unique story of, here they are using article the, and they are talking of the result. So it seems like it is a specific information and they are talking of a result. So specific information and the results, they should come towards the end of a they should come towards the end, as we see here. Specific information or result or suggestion, they should come here. So seems like that's also not my first one. It could have the potential to go at number in the end. So I'll put B in the end, and we'll see how we go. Now if we look at C, experts who have analyzed the rock formation say that. Experts, that looks like good. Who? But you say experts who have analyzed the rock formation say that historically it goes back nearly to 2 billion years ago. Now here we have a pronoun, so it goes back. You do not know what goes back, so that means you already have, they are already making reference to something, and they are using it pronoun to represent it. So we do not know, so that's not my first statement. But let's go to D. Anyone who has ever visited the Grand Canyon. Look at that. So who has ever visited the Grand Canyon? And Grand Canyon is, what is Grand Canyon? Is a common, it's a proper noun. So capital letters, presence of capital letters, and broad thing. So anyone is broader. So broad things, they exist on the top of the sentence. So on in the first sentence here, general or broad information. So if you're talking of general or broad, that's why you've got a general or broad information here. So that's why it could be at the number 1. So we will put D as number 1, and we will see how we go. So at the moment we picked up our D. We haven't had a look at E, but E also starts with the. So if I look at just the beginning, this starts with a conjunctive adverb, this starts with article the, this starts with experts, but you already have article, so you already have a pronoun it here, so it is not my first one. And if we look at number D, it seems a standalone and open statement. If you look at E, that starts with article the. So seems like D is my first one, and let's have a look at in depth now. Grand Canyon will agree that it is one of the most incredible sights in the world. That's good. So that's we are talking of incredible sights. Now this is the thing we haven't talked before. Once you pick the main idea, now you need to find a point which is connecting to the next statement. Now that link may come with the in the form of a, the object of one sentence will become subject in the next one, or it may come in the form of a noun form, verb form in the first sentence may become a noun form in the second sentence, or it may come in the form of a noun and pronoun link, or it may come in the form of a noun and pronoun link, depending upon singular and plural as well. So if we look at here, anyone who has ever visited the Grand Canyon will agree that it is one of the most incredible sights in the world. So I need to find a statement which is talking of incredible sights or something about Grand Canyon. So if I look at this statement, which is clearly a number of factors have contributed to its remarkable appearance. So incredible sights and the remarkable appearance, this is the connecting link between two. So my second statement would be A. Right now, if we talk of this, the result is unique story. Which result we do not know yet, and it seems like to be the end. So I have put that in the end. Experts who have analyzed the rock formation say that historically it goes back to 2 billion years ago. So we have to look at what goes back to 2 billion years ago. What goes back to 2 billion years ago. So they are actually talking about the Grand Canyon. So they talked about the incredible sights, then remarkable appearance. Now they're saying experts whosoever have analyzed the rock formations, they say that historically it goes back to the 2 billion years ago. Now after 2 billion years ago, I need something, because they are making reference to the time here. So maybe they may be explaining the time in the next one, which is here. So the geological processes that have taken since then, since when? Since 2 billion years ago, since then, are exposed to everyone to see, not hidden beneath vegetation or a fast flowing river water course. So I would have that at number. So you have D, then you have A, then you have C, and I will have E after that, and then in the end I'm only left with one. I wouldn't even pay any attention to, I'll just put that in the end, because I have solved the rest of it. Now let's look at the right order. So the right order is D, which is this. Anyone who has ever visited the Grand Canyon will agree that it is one of the most incredible sights in the world. Clearly a number of factors have contributed to its remarkable appearance. Experts who have analyzed the rock formations say that historically it goes back nearly 2 billion years ago. The geological processes that have taken since then are exposed to everyone to see, not hidden beneath, under, or beneath vegetation or a fast flowing water course. Now the result is a unique story of land collisions and erosions, and of rising and falling water levels. So our right answer is D, A, C, E, B. And we have used this one, capital letters, and more open. Anyone means more general. right? Then you connected that with clearly. Then you have the results, which is most specific one, the article specific, and they are talking of results, goes in the end. Then we connected all other statements with the help of different clues. Let's have a look at the number two reorder paragraph. Now if we look at this, you can clearly see, if we look at the first one, you say it was the time when. We do not know what was the time, so which time we do not, they are making reference to time, so not my first one. As a result, as a result, it could be as a result. So you have a conjunction as, which is a subordinating conjunction. As a result, it seems like it cannot be the number one, it is either a concluding one or it is somewhere else. Now in the late 1900s, okay, so that's a adverbial phrase. So adverbial phrases could be at the number one. Let's read through. Food manufacturers were challenged by the organic community to ensure they were blah, 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 that had been produced in natural healthy ways. Okay, it seems like they are introducing something, but not quite clear. I'll keep that in mind, that it could be at number one as well. Now D, whether these system, we do not know what system they are talking, so we do not have that information, so that's not my second one. Now over the last half century, that's again opening adverbial phrase. So over the last half century, organic farming has become the driving force in the world's food market. So I have this open one and I have this open one. Now we will decide which one may go at number one. Now I look for the food manufacturers were challenged by the organic community to ensure they were using, so we do not know, they were using ingredients that had been produced in natural and healthy ways. But what are the ingredients that has been produced in natural and healthy ways? This is represented in here. Organic farming becoming driving force, has become, so that's a sentence which seems to be more standalone. And this time over the last half century, this time is a broader time over the last half century, so that represents a broader time. So you have a broader time and here you have a more specific time, so that's why you always pick this as one, as your first one. Over the last half century, organic farming has become a driving force in the world's food market. So E is at number one. If you pick E at number one, then we have to see if that was also competing with E to go at number one, so definitely this is going after E. So while you were trying to fix first one, you have already picked your second as well, because this is going after that, because these are the most broad ones, right? So now they are they have given a specific time, and then we need something that is representing time. So it was the time when managers had to take a critical look at every aspect of their production process and make improvements where necessary. Which was the time? Because this is the specific time they mentioned, 1900s. So I will have A in the next. And then you have whether these systems, so they are saying these systems, which systems they are making reference to. These systems critical look at every aspect of production process and make improvements where necessary. This system, production process and make improvements, this system they are talking. So you would have D next. So you will have D next. And then as a result, some people believe it is now time to reassess many companies in terms of the standard they agreed to some years ago. So that seems to be as a result, because of as a result. So it is, they're talking of result, then this is the right order. So ECADB. So you have over the half century. After you have completed the order, you just read that from top to bottom in the order and see if the information is flowing. So over the last half century, organic farming has become a driving force in world's food market. In the late 1900s, food manufacturers were challenged by the organic community to ensure they were using ingredients that had been produced in natural, healthy ways. It was a time when managers had to take a critical look at every aspect of their production process and make improvements where necessary, right? Whether these systems have been maintained seem to be questionable, particularly as contracts depend so heavily on efficiency and quick sales. It was the time. So as a result, some people believe it is now time to reassess many companies in terms of standards they agreed to some years ago. So that is the right order. Let's have a look at the next one. We're going to be very quick this time, right? It is important to register for the session with, we do not know what session they are talking of, so that's not my first one, right? The conference is a part of career counseling, so we do not know the conference, which conference they are talking about here, we do not know yet, because they are using article, the specific article, the conference, so we do not know which conference. Now students will be able to speak. Students will be able to speak with industry professionals and graduates who had the benefit of this assistance last year. This assistance, so we do not know what assistance they were talking about. We are only left with one, and which has capital letters, even though that's starting with article the, but it has a capital letter. So if B and D both are competing for the number one, D will win because it has capital letters and they are introducing with many capital letters. The university will host its second annual Arts Commerce Career Readiness Conference on campus next week. Now what this industry what this conference will offer you, the two conference they are giving additional information about the conference. What is this conference offering? The conference is a part of career counseling and centers campaign. So I have D first, and then you have a you have D first, and then you have B. After that you have B. Then after that you have students will be able to speak. After that you have C, they will be able to speak, and then you have A, which is then it is a suggestive. It is important to register for sessions with industry profession as numbers are limited. So this seems to be a suggestive statement which will go in the end. So this first, D is first, then you have B, then you have C, and then you have A. How the information, they're introducing the main idea, they're talking what this will provide, and then what is the outcome, and then what students should go, they should register in time. Have a look at the next one. Now urban planners must consider these threats. These, so we do not know what these they are talking about, right? So that is not my first one. Historically, in Europe, many other parts of the world, settlements were built on higher grounds for the purpose of defense and to be close to freshwater sources. Seems to be open, but it begins with historically. So it begins with an adverb, which could have the potential to go at number one, but I'll keep in mind. If we find something better, more open, that will be my first one. If the dangers are only, you're starting with if, so not my first one because it's starting with a conjunction. It is already making reference to something which has been discussed already. Cities have often spread down from these locations onto coastal plains, putting them at a risk of floods. So now these locations, these, so we do not know these here, not my first one, these here, not my first one, and if danger, not my first one. Then the only thing I'm left with is B. So B is my first one. Let's have a look at it. Were built on higher grounds for the purpose of defense and job, to be close to the freshwater sources. So they're talking of freshwater sources and purpose. Now what we are talking about here, so cities have often spread down from these locations, so we need something to represent the locations. And what are the locations? They are referring to the locations there. Higher grounds for the purpose of defense were built on higher grounds. These are the locations they are referring to. So the second one is D here. Yep. What is the third one? Let's talk about this. Putting them at the risk of floods and storms surges. So they're talking of storm surges, right? So if we look at this, they're talking of urban planners must consider these threats. What are the threats? Surges and floods and storms. So these are the threat and work to allay them. Urban planners must consider these threats. So that is your next one, because they should consider these threats. Historically, in Europe, many other parts of the world, settlements, well, so that's if dangers are only in the specific areas, they can make this same. If dangers, they can make, so that's a suggestive. So they can, if dangers can, so suggestive suggestions, they always come towards the end. They can make the affected regions into parklands or a green belt, often providing the added advantage of open space. So my order is complete. So C is going in the end because it's a suggestive one. So you have B, yep, and then you have D, this, then you have A, and then you have C, and they are very well connected, and there are certain grammatical clues as well. Let's have a look at the next one. Now, so one such example, so we do not know what they are talking about. Not my first one. In addition to being fairly costly, so it is already adding in addition to, so not my first one. Therefore, not my first one. A result of, A and a result, even though that has a result which should generally go in the end, but because they are talking of A, which is a open article, generic article A, so that is my first one. A result of not being connected to electricity grid to North Korea countries means people light their homes using kerosene lamps. So they use kerosene lamps. Now they're talking of kerosene lamps. That's the main idea. Now if we look at, in addition to being fairly costly, so what is fairly costly? The kerosene lamps. In addition to being fairly costly, these create smoke, pollution and carbon emissions. So this seems to be my next one. So let's add a box here, insert a box here, text box, and let's write the answer. So first one is D, and then you have first one is D, then you have B, because these create smoke, pollution and blah blah blah, so they are making reference to the kerosene lamps. Therefore alternatives, because they create pollution, therefore we need alternatives. So next is the C, and then you have one such example of the alternative is blah blah blah, LED lamp that create hours of light and day, blah blah blah. So D and B and C and A. So D, then B, then C, then A, right? So we have used our knowledge of the grammar and the knowledge of the basics of academic writing to crack these reorder paragraphs. Let's have a look at this one. The fear of criticism from colleagues, friends, and family is the main factor that obstructs a change in their employment. So we do not know whose employment they are talking. So not my however, not my first one, conjunctive adverb. It seems that the lack of psychological reward. It seems, we use these sort of words when we are making argument or when we are trying to give more information about something. Is a reason for their dissatisfaction. Then you have a pronoun as well. Whose dissatisfaction we do not know yet. So despite the financial stability a high salary brings, the research has shown that majority of top earners are not happy in their jobs. This seems to be my open-ended statement or open idea. Interestingly, because interestingly starts with an adverb, so may not be that number one. So D is my first one. Let's have a look. So if I put D as my first one, then have a look. So D is my first one. Despite the financial stability, a high salary link, research has shown that majority of top earners are not happy in their job. So they're talking of not happy. So now we have to see where they are talking of extending this idea. It seems so it seems they're giving is not the reason, they're giving reason to something, right? So we may not have that next because we need a sort of problem before that, or we need the problem before we give reason. Interestingly, it is not the risk of decrease in salary which prevents this move. So they're talking of changing the move. Majority of top earners are happy in their jobs, so that doesn't connect either. However, most of these workers would not consider career alternatives. Okay, so that could be another one. The fear of criticism from friends and family is the main factor obstruct the change in their employment situation. All right, now, so if we look at are not happy with their job. If we look at, it seems that lack of psychological reward is a reason for their dissatisfaction. So that sort of connects. If you look at are not happy and their dissatisfaction, so I think C will go at number next one. It seems that because they're talking with dissatisfaction and they're talking for are not happy, right? However, most of these workers would not consider career alternatives. uh, yep, so that goes at number next one. So they will not consider any so if they are not happy, they are dissatisfied, but still they don't choose to change their jobs, then they are giving reason. Interestingly, it is not the risk of decrease in salary which prevents this move. Which moves they are talking of? Changing the job. So this move means this move they are representing for changing, career alternating or changing the job. And then you're only left with one statement, which is in the fear of criticism from colleagues, friends and family is the main factor that obstructs a change in their employment situation. And that seems to be the open, and you have the article. So if we look at the endings, you only have the article in here, so most specific should go in the end. So this is the right answer, which is D, and then C, then B, then E, then A. Hopefully some of these reorder paragraphs will help you to identify the first statement and how to connect one statement with another and leading to the last one. I look forward to make some more videos on the reorder paragraphs. Until then, good luck and keep working hard. Thank you.